tall, gangly thing?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to High Roll Radio, episode number 18. My name is Nick Gangly DePasquale, and I am going to be your host for the evening. This is a live call-in Teamfight Tactics podcast, which means that you, the viewer, are just as much part of the show as we are. First, let me introduce my constant co-host. It's Mr. SPICYAPPIES himself. Sully, how you doing?
Good. I'm a little tired doing the box boot camp stuff all week, but I'm feeling good. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been quite an exciting time. We've got a new set. We've been climbing. I've been playing way more than usual. So it's been awesome. But let me introduce our guest for the evening. It is the owner, the CEO of TFT-coaching.com. It's Aesah. Aesah, how you doing?
Good. I mean, we just launched the site like a week and a half ago-ish, roughly, somewhere around there. And it's been doing a lot better than I expected. So pretty happy.
Let's go.
Cool.
Awesome.
I mean, I want to kind of dive in a little bit. I appreciate you being on the show, and I want to give you a little bit of a platform to talk about the product you're building. But first, let me explain how the show works to everyone who is watching, and then we'll dive into some things to talk about. So if you're watching right now, again, this is a live call-in show, which means that if you want to talk to us about pretty much anything, you have that opportunity. All you have to do is first use the ! High roll command in Twitch right now. So if you want to just like spam that, you can get a Discord link to my personal Discord. On the left-hand side under the High Roll Radio tab, you will see a submit takes topic channel. Go in there, give your take. It could be a question, it could be a hot take, it could be a discussion point. It does not need to be anything super crazy. It could just be an opinion that you have or a question for one of these players. Once you do that, make sure to go into the waiting room and mute yourself. Do not deafen. Mute yourself so you can hear us whenever we do pull you in. Something that we have tried to do in previous episodes is line up the takes with what we're actually talking about on the show as we do it. So definitely make sure to get your takes in earlier so that we know when to bring you on. Otherwise, we'll probably just try and bring you on at the end of the show. Last week, we had way more callers than usual, and it was a ton of fun. So I'm hoping we can ride that momentum and have some more callers again. Now, Aesah, actually, I forgot you were on this show a while ago. I realized today, this is not your first time. You were on here for the Socks episode, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think that was in set 6 regionals, and Socks was of the opinion that like if you're the best player, you should make worlds like close to 100% of the time. And I think that's not true at all.
I remember because he was talking about Goobums, right? He was talking about Goobums having this crazy run at regionals and worlds. He's by far the best player in North America, and there's no world in which Goobums gets day one at regionals. Was essentially the stance that Sox took, and then he made this program. He wrote a script that would calculate a player's percentage chance of making each day of competition based on a certain AVP. I actually recently spoke to him about it because I wanted to try and see if there's a way to input the data that I've been tracking into like this program to see if we can get odds for each player. And he kind of backtracked and was like, actually, I don't think it's very accurate at all. So,
well, it also, I end up being right in terms of what we've seen since then in set 7, 8, and 9, because Sox was basically like not even taking the math into consideration. A lot of those people are saying they believed a player can average like a 3.0, which we've clearly seen that is just not true. No one has even come close to that in set 7, set 8, or set 9.
True. Yeah, I mean, there was a period of time, even like after Setsuko won 2 tournaments, he was averaging like a 3.2 or 3.3, which is insane, but a 0.3 place difference is quite large. And you have to keep in mind that like that's his results after winning 2 tournaments. So yeah. Anyway, Appies, I know. Sorry, this was a bit before your time on the show. This was before your tenure. Anyway,
I mean, Appies was around in set 6. That was like his. That was Appies' prime. I feel like.
Until set 10, surely.
Yeah, until set 10.
All right. Now, before we get too far into the show, we always take a little bit of time to just talk about what we've been up to lately. Sully, you want to start?
Dude, it's just been TFT, like TFT after TFT after it. It's set 10 is so good that I think this weekend, because normally I don't stream on weekends, I streamed like 18 and a half hours on Saturday, woke up streamed like 10 hours on Sunday, then woke up and streamed like 10 hours yesterday. It's just too fun. And the Box Box Bootcamp makes it a lot more fun. So yeah, just enjoying the set. It's a good time.
Now, Aesah, you've been playing TFT, you've been climbing, but I think this is the perfect time to talk about this other thing you've been up to, which is this new coaching service, right?
Yeah. So I had the idea to do this maybe like 3 weeks ago. So it's all been like, I've never done like a business before. This is my first one. So there's a lot of stuff to figure out and a lot of people help me. But basically, it's a monthly subscription where you'll get access to like daily videos uploaded by me, as well as like Discord community. And yeah, it's an affordable price. And if you subscribe now, you'll be grandfathered in for a cheaper price because I'm planning to make it higher starting in set 11 because it's something I want to be doing full time.
Yeah, so I did join as a member, and it is, like Aesah said, extremely affordable and an unbelievable value. This is completely no ad, by the way. I'm not sponsored by TFT Coaching or anything, but something that I found a lot of value out of, because I don't really watch all of the content, right? Aesah does post a lot of content, but for me personally, I found a lot of value out of two main sources. The first being the Discord community that he's talking about. There's like a dedicated subscriber TFT strategy channel that I actually talk way more about TFT and read more about TFT than I do in my own Discord. And then on top of that, Aesah hosts and Appies. I think you'd actually be interested in this. Aesah does this thing on Sundays called Office Hours, where he just has like the one I went to was like a 3-hour block, but that's like really long. I think you shortened it, right, Aesah? It's like 1 or 2 hours now.
The first week, like I said, I have no idea. Everything's just been like I have no idea what anything is going on, so it's like super experimental. I had no idea if anyone would even show up. It ended up lasting for 3 hours because there's just like a lot of people coming in and asking questions, so that was good. And then, but I mean, I felt a little exhausted, so this week I did it for 2 hours.
Okay,
and that was planned beforehand.
So 2 hours long, and it's essentially just an open forum with Aesah. You're watching VOD, you're talking about the game, you're asking him about spots, and it's an amazing value because most players are not going to get the opportunity to talk to top level talent like that and actually talk to them about their thought process. Like, I only joined for a little bit of that first bit, but even then there was like, we watched a roll down and I was like, wait, that's really weird. I don't think I would have done it like that. And I could just ask Aesah, like, hey, why did you not pick up this or this? Because I felt like those were viable options. And I got to have a response right there in real time. So it's cool, Appies, right, to like have this forum where you have a direct conversation with other talent.
That's awesome. And for anyone who doesn't know, Aesah is probably one of the most, not even probably, is definitely one of the most knowledgeable players, like top players in TFT. So any obscure like math related, he just knows pretty much everything you could ever want to know about the game. So you cannot, no hashtag ad, but like you could not ask for a better person to go to for getting better at the game.
Oh, thank you, much appreciated. Yeah, Gangly asked me, it's like, oh, why didn't you buy this RE headliner? I was like, oh, because I'm bad.
Aesah, this isn't your first foray into coaching too, right? Like I know even outside of TFT, you've been, I mean, everyone kind of knows maybe not everyone. If people don't know, Aesah was a professional poker player, still does play occasionally.
You
play poker? You're lying. Shut up. But I know coaching is a part of, kind of your history in gaming or whatever, have you. So this is not your first time actually taking an authority position and like teaching other people how to play something.
Yeah, I used to work for a website called Crush Live Poker, where I would like make videos and podcasts like every week or even multiple times a week, as well as I've done private coaching for over hundreds of students over the past like 10 years. Most of that has been in poker, some has been in TFT. But yeah, this is my first time like owning my first website. But I do think I do think I'm more qualified for this than a lot of other people from my experience. And even when I was just streaming on Twitch compared to other streamers, my brand was kind of like the educational streamer. I've watched like a lot of other people stream like their coaching sessions, and I think like they
Flame them.
A lot of them do a good job, but a lot of times they'll like
they?
nitpick every single thing where it's like, oh, like isn't MF stronger than like Ziggs here? And I'm like what? They're just like getting way too off topic with like very minor things that the student is just gonna be like detrimental to the student's learning process.
Yeah, shout out to all the, and no flame, but shout out to all the good coaches out there for TFT, because, I mean, I think, Aesah, you're being a little too nice, because I've watched a lot of players, like, quote unquote, coach people, and yeah, it's literally just backseating. I have been, I got coached by Gunmei back in set 4. And let me tell you, Gunmei is an amazing coach because he broke it down into like fundamental things and actually gave action points for like, when you walk away from this game, this is what you should work on and this is what you should try to understand, instead of like what you're saying, hyper fixating on these situations that you will not encounter for the next 125 games. Right. And it's like, it adds no value. Appies, obviously you coach all the time on Metafy.
Yeah, no, I'm a big proponent of the don't focus on little things, focus on like the more macro things, and just say like, so I don't, how I do my coaching is I don't do any backseating during the game. I basically have them like be a streamer, and so they'll kind of vocalize why they're doing things. Then I'll ask them questions throughout, like, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And if they can honestly ask me for help if they want help on something, and then I'll be taking notes during, and then at the end they'll be like, okay, let's get together and let's figure out, let's look at some like kind of macro concepts to get better at moving forward. So I think that's the kind of thing that, I mean, a lot of TFT coaches just are like, bro, you skipped enough when you rolled down. It's just TFT coaching is a little weird sometimes, but.
All right, now there's a lot to talk about this week. It's actually funny because I thought there wouldn't be a lot because it's like, oh, set just launched, but Vegas isn't quite here yet. And as I was writing out topics, I was like, oh man, there's actually quite a bit to go through. So I just want to remind people again that if you do have things you want to talk about on the show, make sure to go into that Submit Takes channel and give your take now, because we're just going to start talking through topics and I want to be able to get people on as long as they have, or whenever they have stuff. So go into Submit Takes, put your take, your discussion point, your question there, go into the waiting room and mute yourself, and we'll bring you on when we're ready to have you in the show. Okay, now I have this listed in the run of show as early on, and I think I just want to get a temperature check from everyone, because we posted last week that we're extremely jealous of DSG and Don't Talk If You Don't Know having their own players at Vegas. And so we decided to give the worst sponsorship deal in the history of TFT, which is one player will get $100 and a used hat at Vegas.
Wait, that's kind of good. What the heck?
I think as far as like sponsorship in TFT goes, that is pretty good.
Okay.
I feel like that's really good.
What I learned from the Twitter responses was that people in TFT will literally do anything for $100, because we had so many people reach out to me in my DMs asking if they could be the player. So I just want to say, thank you, everyone who showed excitement. Either Hyrule Radio has like an insane level of fandom that we just don't know about, or TFT players are just extremely desperate. Either way,
I think what it is that TFT's on that spot for like a lot of players where it's like, oh man, I can make money from a video game.
True.
Right? So like $100 from a video game, that's pretty fucking cool. Like, and a hat on top of it?
That's true. It is literally the hat that I got as a sample when I made like Hyrule Radio merch. I'm trying to get more made, but I'm not sure if they're going to come in time. So there's a chance there's a new one, but there's also a chance it's a used one. So do we want to know now, or should we save it for the end of the show? I actually don't know.
I mean, we can say that the person's in chat and leave
maybe
it
we should just do it. Oh, I
kind of. I mean, we could let people. We could let the mystery kind of fester for a bit.
Okay.
Sorry, not fester. That sounds like it's a bad thing. Kind of, ferment. It needs to get some flavor. Build some flavor up.
Someone already said a CLE though.
I want people to start guessing. I want some names in chat. I want everybody, and apologize for all the podcast listeners, but this is something exciting that we don't normally get to do. And I'll read out the names. I want to know everybody who you think is actually going to be getting the sponsorship, because there were a lot of people on Twitter. We saw some top players. We saw Bobster, Groxy, Joe Bookmark, CLE, Z-Boy Wonder, who's in the Box Boot Camp. There's a lot of players. Juan Mie. Yeah, Juan Mie is going to be sponsored by Hyrule Radio. Oh,
Wait, is
man.
Farming competing in Vegas Land? Holy.
I don't know. They haven't released a player list yet, so I don't know who's going to be there.
I'd be surprised if he wasn't. I mean, I feel like everyone's gonna be there. Like any like big name is gonna be there.
All right, you know what? I've decided. Let's just do the announcement because I don't want to linger here any longer. I want to move on to what we're actually going to talk about because it's time to announce the sponsored High Roll Radio official competitor attending the Vegas Open December 8th through 10th. It's going to be, drumroll, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brian Library Big Joseph B. Joe Bookmark! The book! That's right, everybody. Joe Bookmark is going to be representing High Roll Radio with $100 in his pocket and a hat that's been on my head before.
On his head now.
That's right. So congratulations to Joe Bookmark, Tri-State's very own, and very fitting that if anyone's going to be sponsored by High Roll Radio, it would be a Tri-State competitor. Shout out to Connecticut or New York or wherever Joe B is from. I actually can't remember exactly. Do you remember, Sully?
You know, this might actually be the first in-person appearance of Joe Bookmark not wearing that one shirt with Goofy's son on it. From the Goofy movie?
Yeah. It's wait, I thought it has the singer from the show in it. Is it actually Goofy's
Oh, does
son?
it? I have no idea. Because all I know is that I'm pretty sure every time he's come to a TC event, he's worn that one shirt. And so that's like the only... maybe it's...
He's got the drip, man.
Not Goofy, he said.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
It's
Goofy's son.
I thought it's only a hat.
Yeah, it's only a hat, so I don't have a shirt.
You have to get the shirt?
I mean,
he has to get his own.
he's gonna buy a shirt, man. I can't just give out shirts.
And then there's a little asterisk at the bottom that says you must also buy a shirt for $110.
I can see. I might have like an XL or 2XL of one of the TC4 merch shirts, which are actually pretty sick. Not gonna lie. Maybe I can bring one of those for Joe. All right,
okay, and it is the singer from the show, not the son. Sorry, yeah, okay. It's from the Goofy movie. It's the singer that the son likes.
Okay,
my bad.
All right, now I've kind of derailed us. I know we're like 20 minutes in. We've hardly talked about anything. So let's first talk about some TFT news. We want to do a little check-in with the Box Boot Camp. Aesah, Appies, you are both competitors in the challenge right now in the upper division. Setsuko, YB, and Dish Soap are sitting. Or actually, is Dish Soap still number 3? He was before. Yeah, Dish Soap's still number 3. So first, I want to hear Aesah. 1, reactions to the state of Box Challenge right now. Anything that surprises you. Number 2, you want to talk a little bit about your experience thus far. I know you're eliminated now, but maybe talk about your experience in the event.
Yeah, I was averaging like a 2 something, and I thought I was like really chilling, so I didn't like play enough games, so that like people cut off really fast. So I felt like a little bit sad about that, but that's okay. Anything that's surprising, not particularly, except how early I got eliminated. I think that's the most surprising thing to me. I think Robin was doing like super well at the start, but he started struggling as like and they started like developing the Fast 9 meta.
He's won the last 2,
so we'll see if Robin can adapt to that.
I'm pretty sure he's won the last 2.
He has, correct.
Yeah. Our two-time winner is was almost eliminated. Like,
he was
he's at risk of elimination right now, actually.
He was GM 0 OP, which means he lost 200 OP in one day yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. That is rough.
Never the most enjoyable experience.
Sully, same questions to you. Anything that stands out to you, and tell us about your experience thus far?
As far as people who were eliminated, I think like I don't know how much Milk is taking the set, or Kerm also wasn't shooting, but Milk and Kerm are both eliminated, which I found a little surprising. Replay might be the person I was most surprised with getting eliminated actually early, because I feel like he's been on the grind lately. Just in general, like streaming, and I feel like Box became such a great opportunity to get a bunch of content that I expected him to just be like at the top. But yeah, as far as the rest of the letter goes, I'm not like surprised by too much. I think there's, I mean, everyone's doing pretty well. I have no idea if like we're higher LP than we should be, or like about average or what. Everyone's played like a billion games in the pro ladder. It's fun though. It's really awesome. Bosses put it on because it is the start of sets can be not boring. Obviously, they're still very exciting, but in this set especially where it's just such a good set. But it certainly adds a lot of spice to the start of a set, and like the streaming content for it, and just, you know, the enjoyment of there's actual like competition, which sometimes ladders don't really feel there's actual competition, is in like no one really gives a shit about ladder.
Yeah.
It's actually like we don't have the format for this like competitive season in North America this set. We don't really know when the first tournament is, besides Vegas, obviously. We don't know like when our tournaments are, when snapshots are, if there even are any or anything like that. So I think having this competitive outlet at the start of the set has been really good for all the players, because otherwise everyone's gonna just be getting stir crazy, I think, in terms of not knowing what's going on. So it's cool. It's a fun tournament.
One thing I did just want to make a point regarding the replay thing is he actually did, if I remember correctly, I think he did pretty poorly in set 9 box boot camp as well. And in set 8, he also had pretty poor ladder performance across the entirety of the set. Like, he played through the open bracket in almost every single tournament and then ended up winning the world championship. I think he's one of those players that actually, in a way, reminds me of like you or Ramkev, where it seems like he does take ladder either like not seriously, or he takes it as a learning experience and does not just like play to climb specifically. So it is strange, like when we see replay being eliminated early, but I think it is not actually that surprising when you kind of like put him in this box of like, no, he's not like a ladder guy.
Sure.
On the other point, I will say I love watching box boot camp. I think it has added so much to the early set, like you're saying, because it really does give us something to cling on to. And I want to call out the advanced bracket, which is a new bracket that box introduced, which is, from what I understand, it's players who have hit up to Grandmaster in the past, or up to Master, but have not hit Challenger, or at least in recent sets. And it has some really cool talent in there. Like, I know Meteos was competing, Wolfie is in there, Z-Boy Wonder, who's an Aegis caster, is in there. And I think it's also I also applied for it. I did not get in. But it is cool to see this additional format for players who are not at the top. And if anyone has watched my content before, you know that I'm a huge proponent for these stepping stones in competition. And I think this really does kind of fit that niche. So yeah, box boot camp is going well. And Sully, you're still in it, right?
I am, yeah. I'm right now I'm like 200 LP. I'm number 13. Up to number 20 gets eliminated today. Number 20 right now is 124. So I probably need to play more tonight. I have no idea though. We'll see. Probably play more tonight anyways, but yeah, still living.
Maybe one of those things where we don't even need to raid someone at the end of the stream. Maybe you just turn stream back on and keep going. All right. Anyway, box boot camp is covered. We'll move on. So there's something I wanted to bring up, and it's actually perfect because we had a take in here that kind of aligns with this. But I wanted to draw attention to a Twitter thread that Tanner, if anyone doesn't know, Tanner is kind of like almost like the Chinese liaison in a way in TFT, right? Like, he kind of just gives us information about the Chinese scene. He posted something on Twitter recently talking about how set 10 was rated the worst set by the Chinese community. The main reason, I'm going to quote his tweet right now, the main reason for this is set 10 requires a very strong skills of competitive decision making, including positioning, itemization, pivoting, chosen, but with restriction and augment. And then he goes on to essentially talk about how a large population or a large portion of TFT in China is quite casual. And so there's this really interesting almost dichotomy going on where a lot of competitive players are in love with set 10 thus far, and a lot of casual players just feel like they can't keep up. So there's actually a caller who had a take that's very relevant here. So I'm going to bring him in now. I think it's a perfect time. So let's see. All right. Faithless Swine is here. Faithless Swine, why don't you go ahead and unmute? Tell us where you're calling in from. Faithless Swine. Uh-oh. They seem to not be here. They're you know, I'm going to put them back.
No, I'm here.
Oh, he's here. Welcome.
I'm a little dumb and had a hard time navigating Discord.
You're good.
So yeah, kind of with what Gangly was saying. So I've been watching a lot of your stream, Appies, and you talk about how much you really enjoy this set because of how in-depth it is, how much skill expression is involved in it. And I'm sitting here as like a casual player. I actually watch a lot more TFT than I play, thinking to myself that I will actually just never play this set because of how complicated, it seems. And so I'm kind of in the middle ground where I don't mind it because I enjoy watching more than playing anyway. But I was wondering what your guys' thoughts on were in terms of balancing complexity and accessibility when it comes to the health of the game. Like, what is better? Is it better to have like a super complex, in-depth but skill expressive set to where you kind of lock out a lot of the casual fan base? Or are you looking for something more balanced or something a little bit easier? What are your thoughts on that?
I'd love to start here if you don't mind, Nick.
Go for it.
So I think it really depends on what you're looking to get out of the game. So as far as like the casual, because I would say if you're watching TFT streams, you're probably, rather than a casual player, like a casual competitive player, I would say, right? Because you care about what the top players are doing and what meta looks like and everything like that. And I think a set like this can be very difficult for that set of player, where it's like you want to be taking you want to be able to play the game at like a high level, but there's so much complexity to it, and you don't have a lot of time, or maybe just a lot of I guess time is the big thing to get into it and to kind of search it out. But as far as casual players go, so I talked about this a couple weeks ago, I think, on our last episode. But so Miss Appies is a very casual TFT player. She does not know. She knows like some of the top players' names because I just say them every now and then. She's been silver for like a bunch of sets. She plays very casually. She just plays it because she likes the game. She has fun, and she's been having more fun this. She didn't play set 7, 8, or 9, by the way. And she came back this set partly for the music theme and partly because she just like the units and she likes KDA and whatnot, right? But she's been playing like hours and hours a day because she just fucking loves the set. She has fun with it, and beyond just like the music stuff and everything, she's just enjoying how the whole set plays out. So I think as far as like the casual, like the truly casual player goes, I think it depends on what you're trying to get out of the game. I think this is something that I saw under Tanner's take too, is that I think the kind of TFT that like the audience in China that is rating the set so lowly or so slowly is interested in is not really the TFT I don't know, not the TFT that I like. I feel like TFT's been a little bit different the last few sets in terms of what I guess the depth of it and I'm not gonna say skill ceiling because obviously the skill ceiling of TFT has still been pretty high, but it's in a different skill set in my opinion. The last few sets, and this one, while I think it is true that it has a level of like if you want to get really good at it, I think it's more difficult. But I don't think that it actually is that hard to enjoy casually, like truly casually. And again, I think if you're trying to play it casually, competitively, and it's just too much to try to, it's going to be too much time or just too much energy to actually figure that out. I think that is a kind of downside of this type of set. But it's I don't know. I don't think this set doesn't really. I don't think it is so uncatered to casual players that it should be rated that lowly in China, for example, right? Like I think it does cater to casual players very much. I mean, the whole music theme, all of the music changing, the visuals. I think it very much caters to like truly casual players as well. I feel like caters the casual players and like the professional players, and not so much to that middle ground. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I have a few thoughts, but I want to open it up to Aesah first because you are the guest here. What are you thinking, Aesah?
So I have I guess a few things to say. The first one is, out of all the people that like we know in the community, Tanner is probably the most informed. But do we really know that China doesn't like set 10? I mean,
rankings photo. I don't really know what site that was on or anything, but there was like a score for all the sets.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So what I'm looking at is like Huami's, like obviously he's just one person, but I know like Huami's viewership throughout set 8, set 9, and set 10 has been like very consistent. It's not going down or anything. Obviously it's at the start of the set, so that remains to be seen. So I'm just saying, like, I don't know for sure. I'm not so confident. Like, I like Tanner a lot. I think I've probably talked to Tanner more than almost any of the NA players. But I'm not so confident that China as a whole does not like set 10.
Mm. So
the others...
Yeah, keep going.
It's a kind of a different topic. I mean, same topic, but different train of thought is... To answer the caller's question, is it better to cater to the top level or the bottom level? I think like I'm not going to talk about whether set 10 is accomplishing that, but it's always better to cater to the bottom level, because even if you're someone like me or Appies who's like competing at the highest level, the most important thing for us is that TFT is big, right? Like the way for TFT to be big is for new players to like it. It doesn't matter if like one of my favorite games is Omega Strikers, which like at the very top level, everyone's like super into it. Like the same people play all day, like including myself before I came back to TFT. But like it's really hard for a casual player to get into it, and the game is dying because of that.
I think there's something that's important to keep in mind here is, and I forget where I heard this, probably from Tanner, but I have heard in the past that a large amount of China's player base, and I think we even seen this from like the World Championship and stuff, is that a lot of it is mobile, right? There are a lot of mobile players in China. I think that one thing to keep in mind regarding set 10 is that this is probably the hardest set of all time to play on mobile, right? When I've played on mobile a lot. I've played on mobile a lot in TFT, pretty much exclusively in like sets 7 and 8. And some 9 I played much less mobile, but 7 and 8 I pretty much only played on mobile. And whenever I did play on mobile versus PC, I kind of had to frame my game plan around like, okay, I can't do any big transitions. I can't sell with hotkeys, right? I have to drag everything on a 4-inch phone screen, right? And you can't actually play the same way. You really can't. And so all of a sudden, when you're playing a set where you have chosens, where at any given moment, or headliners, where at any given moment, you are required to transition your board on like a 4-2 or 5-1 or 4-5 roll down, it does actually require more APM than previous sets, or it requires an extensive amount of game planning prior to it. It is way harder to just hop into a game and then get hit with the chosen and make a new board very quickly without having an extensive amount of knowledge about the set. So I do think that like, if my assumption is correct about a lot of China being mobile versus NA, it wouldn't actually surprise me to hear that set 10 is not, favored as much. But I will also say, and I agree with what Appies is saying, that the set itself does offer certain aspects that should, at least in my mind, be enticing to new players. I do think like the music theme shouldn't be ignored. There are definitely going to be players who find the actual thematics of the set, enriching enough for their experience. And I also do think that there's an argument that like chosens, while it's highly skill expressive, can also mean that on stage 1, stage 2, you choose a chosen, and that's what you're playing for the rest of the game. You're re-rolling it. You have 3 of them already. Like there are ways to make it more accessible. And I guess I just want to finish saying that ultimately, I think the point Aesah made about as much as we want to cater to the high end, which is what I think set 10 is doing in a lot of ways, giving what people wanted for a very long time and introducing flex play once again. You need to have that bottom level serviced. And if you lose that foundation of your casual player, then yeah, the game is just going to die. So sure. Faithless Swine, I know we said a lot there. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to follow up with or any other questions you had.
No, I think Appies actually introduced a thought that hadn't occurred to me, that there might be 3 different types of players instead of just 2. And I think he hit the nail on the head when he said there's like a casual competitive side to it, which I think I've just been so involved in esport, not involved, but like followed esports so much that it's hard for me to like visualize what actual casual looks like, where you just play a game, have no idea what's going on, but you just play it for fun, I guess. I don't know what it's like to play video games for fun anymore. It's kind of a sickness, but no, I think that makes a lot of sense. It kind of opened my eyes to the possibility that, yeah, people can just enjoy the set because it's, about, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that, they didn't put a lot of effort into this set. I think it was definitely put together very well. So that could actually just appeal to someone because it looks cool and it sounds like fun, Right. So that definitely, you guys definitely answered my question very well, I think. Okay, great. Well, Faithless Swine, before you go, is there anything you want to shout out? Yeah, I would love to shout out Taylor Sludge, the best Snorlax I've ever seen on an Ironmon run. I'm not gonna lie, that was a very stressful time of the Elite Four appies, but Taylor put in the work.
Hell yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, Taylor Sludge I was doing a bunch of Kaizo Ironmon before the set came out, and I won the run the day before the set came out with a Snorlax named Taylor Swift, because you have the move Swift. At the last second, I replaced the move Swift with the move Sludge, so everyone now calls the Snorlax Taylor Sludge. So that's the context.
Truly a beautiful
Hell yeah, Taylor Sludge.
Truly a beautiful Snorlax. But yeah, that's
beautiful
all.
Mon.
Also, Sully, just so you know, Faithless Swine is Charles. I don't know if you knew this.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Whoa, Charles?
So Faithless Swine's a very close friend of mine, actually. So this is
Faithful Swine, aka Lucky Pokes, aka Charles. You know.
That's right. Yep. So thanks for hopping in, Charles, and we'll catch you later.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right. Great. You know what? It's kind of nice to have callers throughout the show instead of just doing them all at the end, because it does, again, to like tie back to what we're talking about when we brought all of this up. I think that it is important to keep Tanner's post kind of at the forefront as we see how set 10 unfolds. Because I do think that like it can have an impact. If people are really not enjoying it at a casual level, then Riot is obviously not going to continue making sets this complicated, and I wonder if we will actually end up losing some of like the evergreen mechanics that have been introduced to the game in an effort to like simplify it.
I will say too, I don't want to talk too much about it, but I think a lot of what he said was making them non-enjoy it too, though, was just the pool size changes, right? And they couldn't like 3-star stuff easily. So I don't know if he's in the complexity of the set that's making, but I don't think he was alluding towards the complexity of the set being the thing that was, killing in the casual audience, supposedly. I think it was the fact that like they can't chase 3-star 4 costs and stuff quite as easily.
I see.
So that seems like an easy fix in future sets if they wanted to do that.
Right. Okay, well, let's move on because set 10 is officially out on the North American ladder, which means everybody is climbing. So what I want to talk about first is the patch that we're on, which is, I believe, is 13.21. Is that the
23?
23? Okay. I never know the numbers. Last time when we had Nature's on, we were like a full we said it was like 2 point something instead of 10 point something. I don't know. It was like some horrible inconsistency. So anyway, patch is out.
I actually don't like the way they're named. I feel like it should just be like 10.1.
Right,
yeah,
like by set point, whatever. Yeah, I'm assuming it's because it's lined up with League of Legends, right? Is that what it is?
That other game. Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah, the spinoff.
The spinoff. So let's talk release patch. Aesah, why don't you kick it off first? What I want to know is first, how do you feel this release patch compares to previous sets?
I think it's really good. I think most of the release patches are good. Our 9.5 had like 1 day of like a Bilgewater that was kind of a fiasco, but yeah, I think most of the release patches are good. I think everyone always says the release patch is really good for like the first week, and then in the second week starts complaining about like Superfan or whatever, and I'm starting to see that pattern, and this happens every single time. I've seen it 10 times now, so since I started competing at 6.0. I
don't know that I would say every release patch is good though. Like, if you think about it, the ones that come to mind right off the bat are base set 7. You have the mage stuff. That was pretty egregious from day one.
I remember that.
Mage, Nami, Astral stuff.
Oh, the Astral stuff. Yeah.
I don't think of that as, because it was like patched in like 1 day. So I always think of like the week after that as a release patch, I guess.
That's
like
fair.
Bilgewater lasted for 1 day before it was patched.
Yeah.
It was really only 1 day of Bilgewater. That's crazy. Damn.
It might have been a couple, but I think it was 1.
Wasn't a lot either way. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think this. I definitely agree with Ace of that. Like, we definitely started to see some of the dark sides of the patch pop up. Right. Like, I feel like after the first week is settled, now we're seeing again a lot of super fan stuff. It's just like Fast 9 City right now. Jazz is everywhere. But I will say that this is already the point of the set where I'm already normally like, man, this is a little rough, and then I'm ready to buckle in. But I think the game's still very, very fun, and there's still a lot more to explore. I think he's just talking before the podcast started about how I think there's like a lot of like agents you can have in like level like stage 4, stage 3 stuff that people aren't really doing right now that could like drastically, not maybe if you're doing that from ahead, it's not the way you win the game, but like you can just top 4 pretty consistently if you just read the the lobby correctly and then just like roll at a weird timing. You know,
I thought you were about to say read what the units do and then use them appropriately.
Don't do that. Don't do that if you're a TFT player. You have to have no understanding how units work. Yeah, but no, I think it's a cool patch.
I know we're like joking, but like, do you guys actually know what every unit does? Like everything that every unit does, or like what all the augments do? Because I feel like this set in particular requires so much more. Like, I guess even like, do you know all the headliner effects, right? Like, do you know all the bling bonuses? There's so much about every unit that I think is naturally just going to get buried, because even if you play infinite number of games, you're not actually guaranteed to just like read the effects of every unit and then like commit it to memory, right?
Yeah, I'd say I have a good idea of what everything does. As far as headliner effects go, I think I know all the unique ones, and then I know like which stats get boosted in the stat ones. But that's like this set specific thing though, because I just spent like 1 billion hours on PvE. But in general, there's like a lot of reading to do in TFT. There's a whole lot of stuff in these move sets.
Yeah, I think I know what everything does, except for like the headliner effects that only give stats. Like I know all the unique ones, but like I know like Samira will get stats. She'll get either crit or AD or attack speed, but I don't know which one.
I think it's crit and AD. I think it's 2 actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So for the ones that are just stats, I don't know, but I think I know everything else.
These things get a little better,
which honestly is good enough, right, for most of TFT. And actually, I would say it's funny. This is something I talked about in a. Was it? I think it was in the TikTok that I made recently. Yeah, I made a TikTok. I do these almost like thought pieces randomly on TikTok where I just like talk about the game. And I made one recently talking about how good enough in TFT is oftentimes good enough. And I think like that's a great example of that, where if you get caught up in like the final 1% of the game, oftentimes you are missing out on the first 70%, which is like your fundamentals. And the reality is like a good enough TFT player can outperform a lot of the player base, not actually knowing the specifics of a lot of the units or like of the traits even, because on some level, like there is this like matching game aspect of CFT that is non-negligible. Like it is a part of it. Like, yeah, 5 pentakill is going to give you additional bonuses compared to 3, right? Like there's something very baseline about that that's easy to understand. But I do feel like the set by and large is hard to understand in all of its complexity. But to circle back to the original point, I just wanted to add in that I also think that this release patch is quite good. I know that we're talking about right now, there's the super fan stuff, Jazz is really good, Fast 9 is everywhere, but I want to call out that regarding the Fast 9 stuff, for a very long time, top players have kind of asked for Fast 9 and for legendaries to be played around, because there's skill expression and being able to just out-strength your lobby and out-tempo them and be able to go 9 and build a flexible board. And so I kind of wonder, like, baseline, is it an issue that Fast 9 is the meta? Like, isn't this actually what a lot of people wanted?
Wait, no one I talked to likes Fast 9 meta.
No, me either.
Okay, so I know, like, maybe I'm misrepresenting this. What I'm talking about in particular is like I've definitely seen in like Lobby 2 that people say they want legendaries to be strong, right? Like they want legendaries to be able to be played around. Is that
sure?
So,
like more consistently.
What I think of it is like, so last set, like the top meta comps, you hit your Fiora 2, Kaisa 2, Jarvan 2, you're playing like challengers, or you hit your like Azir 2, Silco 2, Nasus 2. And then, like, if you hit a legendary that goes into that comp, you should be excited to play it. Like, if you're already playing Noxus and you hit a Sion, you are excited to play it because Sion is one of the good ones. However, I think a lot of the legendaries you did not want to play, even if you were already playing that comp that share the traits, and you hit like a 1-star copy of that legendary. So I think like people are saying they want that, not that like you just skip the rest of the game and only play legendaries on your final board.
Sure. I think like to me,
middle ground.
The thing about no, it's okay. I was just gonna say, and you know, I guess I'll play like devil's advocate in this scenario, but like the thing to me that I'm really enjoying about set 10 is that I think there are a lot of, for instance, like frontline packages made up of legendary units, right? Like you have this Yorick, Thresh, Set, Illaoi, that like they bridge the gap between one another, and you can build these front lines that are quite flexible in levels 9 and 10, and oftentimes bridge them to level 8 if you high roll one of those 5-cost legendaries. And to me, that in of itself doesn't sound like an issue. That actually sounds like a really nice way to add, the ability. It's like another stepping stone of like, yeah, I now have to learn how to play around legendary so that I can understand how to cap out my board better than the average player. And to me, that sounds like just additional skill expression that we haven't actually seen in a lot of previous sets.
I actually disagree. So I have an example from set 9.5. It's like if you're playing 6 Ionia and you hit Ari, you don't even replace your Karma 2. I feel like that is like kind of problematic. But I actually disagree because there's 13 units of every class: 1 cost, 2 cost, 3 cost, 4 cost. So there's 13 4 costs. Like 3 or 4 are tanks, whether you count Poppy or not, and the other like 10 are carries. So knowing how to play around these 10 4-cost carries, I think, is a lot more skill expressive than just playing around like Ziggs every game.
People do play around Ziggs every game. I'm definitely more inclined to agree with Aesah here. I mean, I think it is cool how just like splashable 5 costs are, and how more readily available they are, I guess, this set. And it's cool like see, because often I feel like in like the last few sets you haven't been able to see a ton of 5-cost action. Like the last time we saw people play for a 5-cost was like was Samira 5 cost in set 6? No, was that set?
Samira was a 5-cost in set
7 was all about playing around 5 costs.
Oh, I guess that's true. That's true, because it was like Shimmer Scale Fast 9. No, you're right. You're super right. I just kind of put set 7 out of my mind.
Okay, fair enough.
You're super right. I guess, yeah, I don't know. I definitely agree with Aesah that I think like playing around the mid, like just playing the game on stage 4 is a little more skill expressive than not playing the game on stage 4. But again, I think there's a middle ground. Like I think we can live in a world where like people can play around 5 costs, but also like there's a lot of capping out to do around 4 costs, and a lot of game to be played around 4 costs. Besides just like getting Fast 9 off of Chosen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is the last time I'm like disagreeing with you guys. Then we can move on. But like, I think the thing that I'm noticing even watching and playing is that like this feels the least paint by numbers that TFT has been in a very long time. And to me, it's like, yeah, people are going level 9. They're all capping out with these crazy boards. But also, it's like, if you give a silver player a paint by numbers composition in set 9 and say like, you do this, then you hit this, then you hit this, then you hit this, like they can to a certain degree copy it if they get the right rolls. In set 10, I actually just don't see that happening. And I think the average player does not know enough about capping their boards out and playing around levels 9 and 10 to be able to do that as efficiently as a higher level player. And so I think that extra barrier to me sounds like a net positive. And I think maybe I'm speaking about this the wrong way, because maybe there is a world where you can still have that barrier between like being able to play around these 4 costs and these 5 costs in a healthy way while not requiring the entire lobby to go Fast 9. And maybe it is actually the actual Fast 9 aspect of the set that is the issue.
Yeah, I think for me, like I would agree with that if there were 13 legendaries, but it's just the fact that there's 13 4 costs. Like again, whether you count Poppy or not, 10 of them are carries. Whereas like there's only 8 legendaries total, so you're basically playing the exact same boards against like everyone's playing Illaoi frontline against Illaoi frontline, Ziggs backline against Ziggs backline, pretty much in the top 2 of most lobbies.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, let's move on. We can keep talking, right? So I did want to actually ask, well, I have one more thing on like kind of set 10 and the meta before we start talking a little bit more about Vegas, which was how everybody's climb has been thus far. I know, Aesah, you were eliminated, but obviously you're still playing after being eliminated from Box Boot Camp. How has your experience on ladder been in set 10?
It's been okay. I've been doing okay, not great. I'm traditionally always been very slow at the start of the set, so yeah.
Okay. Sully, what about you?
Pretty well. I'm definitely playing a lot more than I usually do. So I think I ran into a little bit. I had like one day of like struggle on the weekend, but other than that, I feel like I've been getting there. So pretty good. How about you? You've been playing a lot.
I have. I've played way more. Let me see it. Wait, hold on. I want to actually see the numbers on this, because I mean, it's not going to sound like a lot compared to like a lot of people, but I've played 34 games. That's a decent amount of games. That's a lot. That is for the record, like that's probably half of what I would normally play an entire set. Like that is a lot of games for me
in the first week.
Yeah, and mainly it's because, and I can officially announce this that I know I talked about I am going to be in Vegas. I'm going to be working with the Riot social team. I'm going to be doing a lot of things in Vegas, but one of the things I'm doing is I'm going to be working with the Riot social team on a bunch of like meta content with their social team and on TikTok. So basically it allowed me to say, you know what, TFT is now work. And so all my like work time, whenever I don't have client work and I'm not working on specific scripting or content stuff for this Vegas stuff, I've actually just been spending playing and studying and stuff. So it's been amazing. It's been so fun, but oh my goodness, it is exhausting playing in the early set. I don't know how you guys do it because it's like, I think I've bot forward the last 5 of 9 or 5 of my last 9 in plat. I'm like, this is disgusting. Like, this is horrible. I hate feeling like this because obviously like the numbers are different than you're used to. If you're climbing more slowly, it's like you can kind of breeze through, silver, gold, plat, diamond. Like the end of diamond is where like I start to kind of have like issues and then I have to push for masters. And that's normally where I stop. But man, it is just a slog when it's like everybody is at the same percentile, but your rank is so much lower. So man, I have so much respect for everybody who does these climbs early on. There's so much to learn, but I'm having a ton of fun. It's draining when you like have a bad session. I was even talking about it on Discord today. I had one of the worst sessions I think I've had in a while where it wasn't even like I was low rolling. I just threw so like multiple games. And it's such a bad feeling when you have, a session where you feel like it could be a 150 or 200 LP differential if you top 2 a game, but instead you just go 8th because you just threw the game on like a really stupid decision. So yeah, I mean, I guess there's not too much to say, but I'm having a ton of fun with set 10. I love that this is the set I've been able to devote more time to than any other set before, or at least in recent memory. But there's a lot to learn. And so I'm going to, slowly making my way downtown. Hopefully I can climb a little bit higher. So, yeah. Anyway, last thing to talk about for the launch is the Emerald rank. It has been added to TFT.
Wait, there's an Emerald rank now?
Yeah. If you haven't already seen it.
Said that once.
Right. If anyone who's listening to this podcast is not aware, at least, upon the time of recording, every single time you go to load into a game of TFT, it will tell you all about the brand new Emerald rank that exists between Platinum and Diamond. So it's quite cool. I just wanted to draw some attention to that. I don't know exactly what effect it will have on like the ratio of players and ranks. Does anyone know actually like what the actual point of it was?
Emerald rank. Exactly.
It's just to have more differentiations because people like ranking up, right? Like like when you go from like Diamond 3 to Diamond 2, it's not as exciting as going from Emerald to Diamond. So it's just to add more like dopamine to the player base, basically.
Gotcha.
I see. Well, I hate that because it takes long enough to climb as is. We should just get rid of all the ranks between gold and masters. All right. Anyway, that's going to do it for set 10, or at least like the initial ladder climbing. We have a couple more calls that I do want to bring in for this next section, which is going to be devoted to Vegas, which is happening next week, December 8th. Woo-hoo! Wait, no, not next week. The week after? No, it's literally next week. Oh my gosh.
Next weekend.
Holy man, right? It's happening so soon. Yes, Vegas.
It's happening.
Vegas is coming. All 3 of us will be there. Aesah, you're competing, right? You're not just hanging out.
I am, yeah.
Let's go.
Okay, yeah.
It's going to be the most variance tournament of all time. If you go 1-4-4 on day 1, it's 3-game cut. If you go 1-4-4, you will probably not make the cut. So
really?
Wait, why do you say that? If it's a 50% cut,
it's
wouldn't
25%.
What?
3 games, 25% is the first cut, is it?
Wait, really?
No, I don't think
I can
so.
double check, but I'm pretty sure the first cut is 3 games, 25%.
No, is it public knowledge? I don't know because I know the format. I don't know if it's public knowledge or not. Though,
it was posted a while ago, but like they might have changed it.
I think it's better if I don't say anything, just because I don't know what's public or not. But I
it's
could
not
say
that.
it's not that.
Let's go.
Okay.
But no, it is going to be high variance, and this is something I wanted to talk about actually, because Aesah, you're perfect for this.
Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. I'm looking at it.
Nature said it's public. You're good.
It is 3 games.
It is public.
Though. Yeah.
Okay, it's public. Yeah. So the first heat,
you're good.
the first wave of the competition is going to be 3 games. Top 4 of each lobby moves on. So it's a 50% cut off the top.
Okay.
The 25% cut is going to be in day 2, where you play 4 games, and then it's top 2 move on. So there's definitely going to be a lot of variance, and I think people need to kind of buckle up, because the reality is your favorite streamer has a very good chance of getting day 1, and I think it's important to keep in mind that that is not a failure, because this is TFT. It is high variance, and like you could be the best player in the world and get really low roll spots, because these are going to be pretty decent lobbies. Aesah, what's your thought on it?
Yeah, I just think like the 4 games, 25%. I pretty much agree. So what I was thinking is a 4-game one. So if you go like 1, 2, 4, 4, then technically you're averaging below 25%. And there's like, it just feels weird to go like 1, 2, 4, 4 and not be able to make it. But I mean that is the nature of like trying to crown a champion of like 500 players in 2 days, 3 days. So it is what it is. And I don't know. I think it'll be fun. Like, it'll be fun.
Now, something that's pretty interesting is that the patch for Vegas is going to be coming out on Wednesday, and the tournament commences on Friday. Right. But Sully, I don't know if you saw, but Mort Dog did come out with kind of like a statement regarding the patch. Did you see that?
I did. That it's not going to be too many changes. Actually, the patch is, at least there's like a PBE build with like all the patch stuff on it right now. I think it might still be subject to change, but I did see that. Mort is trying. They said the team is not trying to make a ton of big changes before Vegas, because obviously the meta doesn't want to shift up too much 2 days before a big tournament, the biggest tournament TFT has ever seen, really. So
yeah. So if I had to guess, I imagine Superfan is somehow toned down, which is also like a kind of a weird trait, to be honest. It feels like there's not that many levers on it. Oh, they already have it.
Yeah, it's on PBE. Well, some changes. They might silly started to change, but.
What are the changes to Jazz and Superfan in particular? Those are the ones that I think a lot of people would probably have their eyes on.
Going from the HP on Jazz on the 2-piece is getting cut to 1.5% instead of 2%, and then the 3-piece is getting 3-piece and 4-piece getting toned down by 1% on HP, and then the damage is 1% on the 4-piece and 0.5% on the 3-piece. So it's getting just nerfed all across the board. I think it's a good thing. Superfan, I think they're not affecting the trade at all. They're just changing. I'm pretty sure they brought Kennen out back, if I'm not mistaken. Kennen, his Jolt now heal when he's chosen now heals 3% instead of 4%. It does pretty significantly less damage. It went from 240 to 215 at Kennen 2. So Kennen just got worse, pretty much, was the change on Kennen. Oh, they buffed the Felios. Dang, interesting. Huh. Also, one interesting change that Kesante does. He went from 700% AD on his ult to 800%, so maybe he does some damage now on stage 2. Some edgelords are getting buffed, which is a little. Viego's getting buffed and Yone's getting buffed. I think the Yone buff is good. I think Yone's getting played in CN a bit, but I think Yone's a pretty dog unit, so I'm kind of glad. I think Riven was already very good, and I was really worried there was actually a big Riven buff here, because what changed with Riven is that it was a text change that says, because right now she says shield and attack deal bonus physical damage to enemies in the 1 hex of the target, right? And what it says now is shield and attack deal bonus of damage to her target and enemies in the 1 hex of the target. So I thought that maybe it wasn't doing that already. I thought it was. So I made sure I checked this in lobby 2. It is just a text change. She's not getting buffed at all. It's just she's doing exactly what she was doing already. It just is now reflecting properly in the text, which is what I thought. But
okay,
yeah.
And anything on Nico? I feel like that's another one that people may be looking to.
Nico. Nothing on Nico.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. So the hope then is that the Kennen nerf is enough to bring Superfans out of the, or less in the meta, and that Jazz as a whole, which is largely a large part of like that Superfan. I mean, not the only part of Superfan being strong, but definitely the Superfan Jazz composition in particular, probably is not going to be as hard forceable as it is right now. So makes sense. Anyway, let's kind of circle back more on like the Vegas aspect of itself. I know we have a caller, and I'm going to bring him in now. We're going to bring in, let's see, he should be here. It's CLE. CLE, welcome to the show. Where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from the CLE from Cleveland, Ohio.
Sheesh.
All right, CLE, what do you want to talk about?
I am one of the players that did high roll a competitor pass after the fact, and I'm very excited about that. I do want to talk a little bit about lobbies for this. Because so many of these challenger players from around the world got these passes early, there are very few Masters players in that tier, Masters GM. Do they have a chance at all in this competition?
Ooh, interesting one. Okay. Do Masters players have a chance? At this times like this, I really wish we had a player list to know how many Masters players there are. So I don't know how many players are on day 3. Does anyone know off the top of their head? Because
At least 8.
Okay, good.
It's 8 on day 3.
It is only 8.
Oh, is it actually only 8?
I'm going to make a statement
Yeah.
that I do not think a single Masters player is making. I'm going to say top 16. I think top 16 is not going to have a single set. Well, I guess also, what do you consider a Masters player? Right, because someone could be Masters in set 9, but then technically be Challenger level in set 10. It's really hard to quantify this. I'm still just going to say I don't think a Masters player is making top 16. I actually would even go so far to say maybe not even top 32.
Damn, the gauntlet has been dropped. I mean, I for what it's worth, I agree with that. I think obviously the math is there that it could happen, but I don't think it's super likely. I don't know how Aesah feels.
I tend to agree. TFT is an extremely high variance game, but at the same time, like throughout each game, you're making hundreds or thousands, or however you decide to, like what you count as a decision. You're making, let's just say, you're making hundreds of decisions. And even though it's a really high variance game, I just don't think that's going to be the case. I did a unranked to Masters speed run back in set 6, and I basically never, like even through the lowest low rolls, I never placed anything except exactly first.
Really?
Well, towards the end of it, I was starting to get into lobbies with like rank 1 on my Smurf. So like then I started not placing first in those lobbies. But like when I was playing with like Masters players and like, yeah.
I did the same thing rerolling Vi, the 2-cost Vi every game, and I also didn't not go first for like the first like 20 games.
I remember that. Yeah, I actually remember specifically, Appies, that stream where it's like, you are climbing to Masters faster than I was, and you're playing reroll Vi only, and I'm like, this game sucks, man. Like, I'm getting outplaced by this guy every single game. Yeah, I think Aesah makes a very interesting point there, because I want to, Aesah, bring your attention to when we first met. We actually had a conversation about this not too long ago. When we first met, you were talking about at the highest level, it's very hard to find that edge, right? And the edge does drop off quite a bit when you get to like an all challenger lobby. When you get to not even that, like a top challenger lobby. How much of a drop off though do you think there is between? I mean, and this is kind of like the age-old question. How much of the drop-off is there between the average Challenger player and the average Masters player?
So when I first met Gangly, it was when I just started competing in TFT after I won Challenger Series in set 6.0. We were talking about, like, basically what's the difference between the best player in the final lobby versus the worst player. At that time, I didn't really know anyone, so to me, like, they're all the same. Like, I think, like, I don't remember exactly, like, the best player might have been, like, Robinsons, and the worst player might have been, like, I don't know, like, Casper Wu. I'm not entirely sure, but, like, in my mind, they're exactly the same, because I didn't really know them. But now that I've played a lot more TFT, I've watched these, like, I'm a lot more invested in the scene. I do think there is a big gap between, like, Setsuko and, like myself, even, like a very big gap. Whereas before, like, I just didn't realize that because I just didn't know anyone. Oh yeah, Setsuko was in that tournament as well.
Mm-hmm.
Setsuko actually could have won by forfeiting against Appies, but
yeah, he would have gone second and gotten the bye to regional or something.
To mid-set, yeah.
Oh
to
yeah,
mid-set,
yeah. But he didn't know if he was allowed to without being punished by the administrator.
He was trying hard to lose, but my board was absolute fucking dog.
Yeah, he was like leaving Zephyr on bench and like, but
Yeah.
he ended up winning the game. But yeah, which let me win the tournament. But yeah, I don't know. Like with a World Series of Poker, like a beginner can win because out of a field of 5,000 players, poker has enough variance that even though it's a 10-day event, a beginner can actually win because poker has enough variance. I just think TFT doesn't quite have that variance. I don't really think people can overcome like what's effectively like 1,000+ LP gap.
Well, so that's okay. This is great because now we can kind of quantify something, Aesah. Because calling back to what we talked about before, Aesah was a professional poker player, has played for years at different stakes, different types of events. Compare for me your unranked to masters run in TFT versus if you were playing in like the equivalent of an all bronze lobby or an all bronze through platinum, equivalent lobby in poker. Do you feel like there's an even how does the edge compare from TFT to poker there?
Okay, so a couple of things I want to say. I want to go back before I answer that question and say that these lobbies actually happen where you get 7 1K plus LP challengers like late at night, and then you get a Masters players. And sometimes the Masters player does go first, like it does happen, but it's extremely rare. And to go answer your question about poker, I literally do that like every day when I'm playing poker. That's the whole point of playing poker because there's no matchmaking. Your goal is to make as much money as possible. So like I literally do that where I just go and find silver players and play with them, and you can lose for like you like my longest downswing. I played like 1,000 hours. I was down like 20K over a period of 6 months, and that's very normal. Like that's super normal. Every single poker player who's like as tenured as I have experienced something like at least that extreme. Basically. So
wow.
In TFT, like you're like I said, you would only go first. Like there's no question about it. But
right.
like I would say if I play for like an individual day, I play like 8 hours with like silver players in poker. There's like maybe like a 65 to 70% chance that I'm gonna be like up that day, and like a 35% chance that I'm down.
I think to kind of circle back to what CLE's original question is too, though, I think something that's really important to keep in mind, and we've talked about this on the podcast, is that it is virtually impossible to ever know at any given point in time who is better than somebody else in TFT. LP is not a metric of somebody's understanding of the game at one specific point in time because it's built upon time and time again, right? For hundreds to some people over 1,000 games. But the reality of TFT is that it is a game that changes extremely quickly, and sometimes the game just clicks for players. So CLE, I think like the way I would answer the question is, if we could find a metric that defined a Masters player at that given point in time, I would say no, they're not going to stand a chance. But the reality is somebody could be ranked Masters, but all of a sudden learn something about the game that does give them an edge over the field. And I think if that does happen, suddenly this player is not even like a true Masters player, so to speak, because if they could play the required number of games on that patch or in that period of time where things are clicking, then they would actually climb high enough to hit a higher rank, and then they're no longer Masters, right? So it's kind of a complicated question. Celia, I don't know if you had any follow-up question or statement that you wanted to make.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting when we really find out what the lobbies look like, how seating works and all that stuff, because I think that's kind of all up in the air. We kind of just bought tickets and it's called good from there. And so that variance could play into it a bunch. And I think that there is a little bit of TFT of the any given Sunday kind of idea from, just NFL football of someone can go on a run. If I high roll 5 games in a row, that could be a fun run, like I did in the Appies tournament a little bit. Those firsts in a row. I'll hang on that one, just like that one fight night that Gangly had.
There it is. Wasn't high roll; it was completely earned. But anyway, I appreciate the call out.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm looking forward to Vegas. It's gonna be fun to hopefully see some unknown players just have a huge run, but obviously just having a ton of fun and being together is gonna be awesome.
There's another thing I want to say about like what Gangly said about the Masters thing. When I VOD reviewed with Shunga, the Set 7 World Champion, I also watched all of Kwame's games, all 18 games or however many from Worlds for both players. I thought CN was quite a bit better than NA at the time. I think NA has caught up quite a bit now, but I will say Shingo told me they were actually struggling a lot in scrims. Like they were tryharding in scrims and struggling a lot because they were not used to like the greedy meta that like the other regions played. So like they would preserve HP, but then they would get outcapped and never go first. So like they had to adapt. And I think like the Vegas tourney meta, like it's going to be different than ladder. So even if someone is like masters on ladder, their playstyle might fit that meta better. We'll see.
Ooh, that's really cool. I love that. That's a very, very interesting point. We've talked in the past about how tournament play is very different than ladder in general. And so you make a really good point that not only are we going to be having some sort of tournament meta and some sort of tempo that naturally arises from this setting, but we're also going to have this mix of player skill. And so that is going to kind of throw a wrench in things. So very excited to see how all that plays out. CLE, we're going to get going because we do have one more call in the pipeline. So is there anything you want to shout out before you go?
Shout out you guys. You're all fantastic. I love each of you individually and as a group. Shout out summer camp. That's all. Excited to meet everyone in a couple weeks. No, a week and a half. Oh my goodness.
Okay. Isn't that wild?
Crazy.
That's
all
wild.
right. Well, thank you so much, CLE. We'll catch you later.
Bye.
CLE's been editing the videos for my coaching site too, so really happy. He's
sick.
been giving me a lot of good ideas as well, like on the side too.
Nice. Yeah, CLE, he worked with me on some TikTok stuff in 9.5 and very eager and hard worker, great guy. Love him.
He got like this close. For people who are just listening, my fingers are very close together. He got this close to winning the Appies sub tournament the past weekend too.
I saw that. He was like top, what was it? Top 3?
Like 1-1-1 something. It was one. It was a 5-game tournament, so you know. It was like 1-1-1 something.
I see.
Yeah.
All right.
Something really didn't work out super well, but he top 3 of the tournament. So
we have one more call that is kind of in a similar vein, but I think it's different enough that we can have a conversation about it, and we're getting close to time anyway, so we'll have this as our final call of the night. But Lemon Tea is here. Lemon Tea, where are you calling in from?
Hey, hello. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
Very nice. Oh, actually, I knew that because Lemon Tea was in my Discord today when we were talking about some Werner's lore. Shout out to Werner. Shout out to the Midwest. Anyway, Lemon Tea, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah. I'm just curious. I think something like Vegas and just lands in general are just really great for building community with TFT and like the larger kind of greater audience. Do you think we'll see kind of more events like the LAN or even something smaller, maybe even regional, to allow for more like competitive play and maybe even kind of competitive play not among challengers and maybe some sort of more entryways into the competitive scene?
This is a great question. So wait, Lemon Tea, just so I know, because I don't know how long. Was today the first time you chatted in my Discord? Have you been in for a while?
I'm a long time listener and lurker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with like the Tactician's Crown series, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Just want to make sure so we're on the same baseline. So, regional events, LANs. How important do they play a part in the future of TFT? I think I'll start here, if you guys don't mind.
Wait, so I have a question about Lemon Tea's question. Are they asking specifically about live events or like smaller online events as well?
I'll include like smaller online events that are, kind of just like about a tournament like play more than ladder, and like more people engaging in this kind of competitive format.
So, okay, let me start here because there's something anyone who watches my content, the second time I'm saying this today, but anyone who watches my content knows that I'm a very big proponent of regional pride and of LAN events and the narrative storytelling that comes out of having a local community. The primary benefit I see out of small events, regional events, is that it has the power to star build. It has the capability of taking these local, secret, hidden talents and all of a sudden thrusting them onto a stage where people can point at them and say, hey, I knew this person before they were them, right? I knew SPICYAPPIES before he was arguably one of the best player in set 6. I knew Aesah before he won the Challenger Series. We can say that with the Tactician's Crown Series, right? I knew Bosso skills before he made the top 15 at Don't Talk If You Don't Know. I knew Groxy before he started popping off in set 9. Which actually, I mean, that one came
Knew
later
Joe
on.
Bookmark before he won the Vegas one.
Exactly. We knew Joe Bookmark before he won Vegas. And I think people really underestimate the star building power of regional events. Because I think if I were to hope for a world, a few years down the line from right now, I would hope that there's the East Coast threats, the New York talent, the Pacific Northwest hidden boss, all these players that the people who are regional, the people who are in these niche communities can point to and hold on to, latch on to, and be a part of their story. Because ultimately, when they do get into the limelight, whether that is making it to Worlds or top 8ing at a major event like Vegas, the fact that it's grounded in something like a local community, to me, makes it much more impactful. And actually, beyond like the initial impact of someone having a star-studded performance, I think it actually just makes it easier for them to hold on to that fame or onto that moment much longer than they normally have. I think it's like it lowers the chance of someone being like a one-set wonder where they come in for one set, they do well, and then they are gone and never seen again because ultimately they couldn't reach that same height that they did in their best set. But I don't think that you need to make Worlds every set in order to become a star in TFT. And that's the point I'm ultimately trying to make. I think that small regional events, I think live events in particular, where you can do live content, where you can hear people's actually talk about the game, like person to person kind of stuff, and you can actually see them in like an unfamiliar environment, makes the game way more interesting to watch, makes these talents feel way more tangible and relatable when you're seeing them in like a different setting. And ultimately, I just think is way better for the star building and narrative portions of TFT. I know it's kind of long-winded, but I think there's a lot of value in small live events, and I think that we definitely need to see more of them. Sully, I don't know if you want to go off of that.
I feel like you said it perfectly. I mean, we come from Smash. Regional pride is just built in. Hey, I think and we've talked a lot in the past about like, what if we did like a like regional events in TFT? Or like, what if we did like a Northeast tournament? What if we did like even crew battles, or like Northeast versus like Florida? I feel like we've definitely been seeing the praise of like what regional pride could bring to the game for quite a while. And yeah, I agree. I think like regional tournaments, the narrative beyond even just the narrative, like the this of someone coming up in a regional tournament and then breaking out on the scene and stuff. I feel like it just does wonders for the community. Like having little communities within the community is, I think, a good thing. And it just makes it feel like more robust overall. And TFT is becoming a really big game. I mean, it already is a pretty big game. And while it's like mostly online, which will always separate it from something like Smash, I think there can be a lot of overlap in the value there in the regional stuff. So basically, TC5 is happening next weekend. Same time as everyone. It's in the bathroom of the hotel next door after Vegas ends. Everyone bring a laptop. We'll play some TFT.
Holy.
Aesah, I don't know. I don't want to like derail into a different question if you wanted to just directly answer this question, but there's something that I find very interesting is that in poker, and I'm sorry that like I'm like just bringing everything back to poker for you, but because it's kind of a familiar world where there's online poker and then there is live poker, right? And they are two different types of events, or in some ways I imagine there are two different types of games. Do you feel like there's value from like the live event games that the online scene does not benefit from?
Okay. Well, I guess to answer your question, poker is completely different where, again, there's no matchmaking. So your goal is to play with the worst players possible. So online is very competitive. If you're actually trying to make money, you need to be like basically challenger or like very close to challenger level if your goal is to make money online. Whereas live, of course, like anyone can find a table full of silver players with like $1,000 in front of them each and just like beat them up. So I think poker is just completely different from TFT in that comparison.
Makes sense. Yeah. I would love to hear kind of your take though on the value of live events or regional tournaments, because you also attended the calculated loss land.
Yep.
So yeah, you want to talk a little bit about your experience there, or what value you think it brings?
Value wise, I think I'm not entirely sure, honestly. Like, this is not my area of expertise. I will say, like, it was super fun, and if there's any more lands in LA, I'm down to go to all of them. But I'm not really like, in terms of value, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Yeah, it's just not my area of expertise.
Who won that, by the way? It was a vanilla, right? No, it was
a lab member. I think it was vanilla. Yeah.
Or no, wait, was it Ripple Overdrive?
It wasn't Ripple Overdrive, I don't think. It was a lab member for sure.
I don't remember, but there are a lot of good players there. I know Connor Me was there.
Oh, I'm just lying. Okay, it wasn't a lab member. I'm just super lying. Never mind. I was very confident with that, and it was super wrong. It was Ripple, says chat.
Okay.
I don't know anything.
Yeah, I think I'm... Okay, hold on. It's interesting to me, Aesah, that like you attended the event and you feel like you're not exactly sure value-wise what it brings, and I want to attend calculated loss next time. Next calculated loss, I definitely want to go, because I feel like there's a lot of things that can happen at a land that do bring a lot of value. Like, I don't know, do you feel like, I don't know, even talking about the fact that you got to meet local TFT talent, do you feel like that did anything for you?
Yeah, for me, it was super fun. Actually, it's funny you mentioned local TFT talent, because I actually met a lot more people from not LA than in LA, to be honest, the people who traveled there. But I mean, I think the event was super fun. Like I said, I'm down to play any other land, but I think, I guess like for LA, I already had met like a lot of the, like there's like a LA TFT meetup. So I'd already met like Robin, DQA, Saintfish just never comes out, but I already met like Becca, Box, and all of them from like the, like, just like a Discord meetup.
All right. Yeah. Makes sense. I see everyone, people in chat are talking about their experience at different lands, and I do see, I want to shout out Joe Bookmark, who says, did calculated loss not have the electric personality of Lil Top? There is something so fun about being able to go to a LAN and see the kind of eccentric personalities of people you only have, engaged with online come to life. We always talk about that moment of Ramkev like screaming at his desk during, I think TC2 or 3. I've already lost track of which ones were which.
If I talk about the Joe Bookmark TC4 experience, like the first time I saw my TC4.
TC3.
On podcast. No, not TC3. Sorry, like at TC4 when I saw him walk in. When I was talking for the first time at TC4. Because what it was I was at because there's like the line through the door and like the sign up thing. There was like a thing of cookies that people could get. They were like complimentary cookies basically. And so I'm standing there and I see Joe and I'm like, hey, what's up, Joe? And he takes 2 cookies, puts them both in his mouth till he chokes, and he just starts coughing.
That's amazing. That's my player. High Roll Radio's very own.
That's who we're sending to Vegas.
That's who we're sending to Vegas, baby.
I mean, I'm also like, Rainbow Meowie asked in chat why. That's what I was wondering as well, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, there are a whole lot of why.
Yeah, whatever, man. That didn't happen.
That's why we signed him. That's why Nick signed him. I didn't. But
I also want to mention, like, one thing that gave me personally a lot of value from going to the LA LAN is Bubasaurus gave me like a lot of like business advice, basically. Some of you guys may not know this, but I was like this close. For those of you guys who are just listening, you can't see my fingers, but they're very close from taking an office job just like a couple weeks ago. But Bubasaurus kind of like inspired me to like keep on staying in esports. And he was just saying like, I believe you can succeed. And I was like, interesting.
He's crunching the numbers. Yeah, shout out to Boop, keeping Aesah alive in TFT. And on top of that, also, because we didn't mention it up front with the news, is that Boop is also, him and his partner are sponsoring a player to go to Vegas through Don't Talk If You Don't Know with a $1,000 stipend, but no hat. So it sucks compared to the High Roll Radio deal. Am I right, everybody?
Yeah, would you rather have $900 or a hat worn by Gangly? I mean, like, is that even...
It's $900 versus priceless. So I think the answer is pretty obvious.
What was that credit card? Was it like a MasterCard that always did the priceless commercials? We got to make like a spoof MasterCard commercial where it ends with like Gangly's hat, priceless. Anyway, Lemon Tea, we did kind of derail, but I feel like it was a good jumping off point to talk about like regional events by and large. So is there anything you wanted to say to follow up with before we give you your shout outs?
Yeah, maybe just, do you think we'll ever see ways to qualify into like I guess everything's changing, but like cup style tournaments that isn't just like from a ladder snapshot? Do you think there might be like some sort of small tournament? I always think of I think it's Aegis Esports that does those small tournaments. I think are pretty interesting. Do you think we'll ever see something like that?
I can go first on this one. So Europe, they have like a raffle that I think that any diamond players or above like are eligible to play in like open bracket qualifiers to qualify and make it to regionals and potentially worlds. I personally don't think it's super practical because having to prep for these tournaments and play in these tournaments that take multiple days, I think I don't think it's that much less time consuming than just playing on ladder. So I guess like to backtrack a bit, I'm operating under the assumption that the point of this tournament is for people who don't have enough time to get high enough rank on ladder. But basically, I think like they're going to be close to as time consuming. But correct me if I'm wrong if that's not the purpose of that.
No, I would think that's the purpose too.
So we had this very long conversation in Lobby 2, like a week ago? I mean,
I was thinking about that specifically, yeah.
Yeah. There was a very long conversation in Lobby 2. Oh, did you read that, Sully?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. About kind of the goal of the point of having players who are not at the absolute highest level eligible for tournaments like Vegas. And I'm going to keep this short because I know we're already over time. So someone just cut me off if I start to ramble. But the point I was making is that the goal should never be to find the best player for Worlds. And if that's the only and that should never be the only qualifier for allowing someone into a tournament. Vegas is an excellent example. Most of the players in Vegas have no chance of ever qualifying for the World Championship. However, it's extremely important that we allow those players into the tournament because an open bracket event, like CLE was talking about earlier, the any given Sunday, anyone can win attitude is what converts your engaged players or your casual competitive players into highly engaged players. It allows players to have a roadmap to saying, I may not be good enough right now, but one day I could be. And I get to, instead of going to Vegas to win the event, I get to go to Vegas because I get to play with SPICYAPPIES and Aesah and K3 Soju, and I'm probably going to lose, but you know what? This is an opportunity that I'm never going to have again. I think that it would be a huge mistake if in the future Riot did not allow regional events to feed into something, whether that is another LAN event where we have regional events throughout the country that the winner of each, is allowed to enter, or whether it is maybe like the winner of whatever regional event does get a spot into the open bracket of one of the cups. I think that it would be a mistake to not allow some sort of stepping stone to come out of the grassroots organization of the community, because I think that you have a lot to gain by allowing people who can afford to put their efforts into the lower ranked players to invest in them and try and convert them into higher engaged community members. Sully, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I keep going back to the Smash thing, but I'm always, I think that like, Sunday anyone can win attitude. I think that does, you said it perfectly in that, like, that is what converts people, right? The ability to like attend these events and to, even to like experience that setting for the first time. Like I feel like, I remember walking to my first Smash tournament as like a shitter sophomore year of high school, and I got destroyed, right? I was like playing Falco on my 3DS. But like that little taste of competition. All right, I actually, know what I didn't. I think I got to like semifinals in that tournament, just like rolling to ledge, spamming laser, then backdooring people. And I was like, holy shit, I want to get better at this. Because the person I lost to was so much better than me. And I was like, I choose me here, but how do I get, like, where do I go from here? And then that like totally kickstarted my whole interest in Smash for the rest of my life, really. I mean, up till now, not that I've lived that long, but you know,
okay,
like that one experience was enough to get me really, really into it.
And I want to give an amazing example of this. TC3, the player who came in dead last, shout out to Lab Base, okay? Came in dead last, going 8-8-8 or something like that and getting eliminated after the first 3 games. Goes to TC4, which was unbelievably stacked, right? And we talked about it before. It was like, I think Appies was seeded like 18th or something. It was an unbelievably stacked tournament. This guy was seeded in the top 20, I think. He was like Masters 300 LP for TC4 after going dead last in TC3. And he did say that like going to TC3 ignited something in him. He didn't really enjoy the set that much during that time, but he was like, I want to keep doing this kind of stuff.
It's all it takes.
Right.
It's all it takes.
And so I'm not saying that Base is going to go win the world championship, but I'm saying that this is clear evidence of someone who had a taste of competition and then went on to say, hey, I want more of this, and then played the game more and became more engaged with the competitive scene. And I guarantee you that is not the only example that's going to come out of small regional events. And if we put more time and effort and care into our grassroots scenes, I promise it will flourish and lead to some actual results. But Lemon Tea, thank you so much for your take. Is there anything you want to shout out before you go?
Shout out Lord Tupperware, twitch.tv, Lord Tupperware.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll catch you later. All right. I also do just want to say, someone in the chat right now, Park Valley says calculated loss was like that for me, right? So like we're seeing the evidence of this kind of stuff. People get a taste of competition. They get to lose to their favorite players. I mean, that's what it was for me for Fight Night. I ended up beating them because I naturally was just better. But it's for so many people, they just want a taste of defeat at the hands of their favorite player. So I hope we do get to see more of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway. Go for it. Go for it.
You go ahead. So going to like the original point of like, what is like the value added? I think like, so it gets more people into competitive TFT. I guess is that something that is good? Like more people competing.
Yeah, I mean,
I think a more invested community, like a bigger, more invested community, is always a good thing.
I mean, it's not just about getting people to compete. I think a part of the engaged competitive viewer or player, or whatever it is that they add on to the fandom of the professional scene. That's the most important part, right? Is like, yes, there is a very large casual scene in TFT, but if we're not converting those casual fans into the competitive side of the game, then the competitive side naturally is not going to grow. Right. So like to me, having some sort of stepladder that leads these casual players or maybe the mildly engaged player base and converting them to highly engaged is the most important part. And I think that having locals, having regional lands is a really good way of, you know, at least setting something up to get it there. I know there are like plenty of anyway, I'm going to ramble, but that's the point is that okay. I think a lot of value comes from taking the casual fan and being able to convert them into fans of different top players.
Yeah, I would love to see more regional lands. It's just like really fun. So like, but yeah, I think like that discussion we were talking about, like Sherman seemed like, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen for set 10, but he seemed like he was of a similar mindset of what you're talking about. So.
Yeah, it did seem that way. All right. Well, that has been Hyrule Radio episode number 18. We talked about a lot. Thank you, everyone who did call in. It's so much more fun when we have callers. So shout out to Lemon Tea, CLE, and Faithless Swine for all calling in with some great topics. Soli, why don't you kick it off with some shout outs or last thoughts before you go?
Yeah. Shout out to Nick and Joe Bookmark for going to Vegas and for Joe being the sponsored player in Vegas. Shout out to Aesah for being on. You're a fucking beast as always, and you're like the best. You're like the best podcast guest because you're just very well spoken and like actually engaged. It's very nice. It's very, very nice. And I think we've been spoiled for podcast guests recently, actually. They've all been so good recently.
I know.
And shout out to Box for putting on the boot camp. It's so fun. And I'm going to go play more TFT after this. So I'm going to eat and play some TFT. Oh, yeah.
All right, Aesah, last thoughts.
Yeah, just like there's just shout out to the entire TFT community. Everyone's just been like so nice. I think like I mentioned, I had a lot of anxiety with doing my new coaching site, but like everyone's been super nice. A lot of people have helped me a lot. I mentioned like I met Bubasaurus at the land who helped me, but also Park Valley gave me a lot of advice. And then yeah, just you guys for having me on the show.
All right, well, thank you, Appies. Thank you, Aesah, everyone for being here. Let me just think. Last shout out to everyone who does watch the show. It's been a lot of fun having the show with better viewership. So I am so glad that we moved to Sully's channel instead of mine. This is pretty. This is obviously going to be the new home of Hyrule Radio. I think it was definitely a healthier move for the show. So shout out to everyone who's been watching that content. For anyone who might, I don't know what the odds are, but if anyone's watching this podcast or landed here after watching my TikTok content, let me know, because I actually have no idea how much of that is converting into like the more competitive side of TFT. So if you are here from my TikTok, please shoot me a DM on Discord or something and let me know, because I'd love to know. Yeah, shout out to Box for doing the boot camp. Shout out to Joe Bookmark, our first ever sponsored player. Vegas is going to be a blast. I have more announcements coming later this week, but I'm very excited for all the stuff that's going to be going on. So, yeah, we got a week till the greatest TFT LAN of all time. Next to TC 1 through 3, 4 doesn't count because it wasn't our fault. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Have a great night, and we'll catch you later.
Bye-bye.